Hey, if you don't happen to know who I am, my name is Reese Liker and I'm the owner and founder of Define. And today we're going to cover how to read any eyeshadow palette. It's a very foundational topic that once you learn how to do it, you learn about it. It's going to make doing your own eyeshadow looks so much easier because I don't want you to have to rely on my tutorials for forever. I want you to be able to create your own eyeshadow looks, and learning this is the first step in going in that direction. But here is the acronym that I want you to remember when it comes to reading eyeshadow palettes. It is WHITA, and I apologize, this is backwards. I don't know how to, write backwards and mirror this, that would take a lot. But WHITA, W-H-I-T-A, and this is how to read any eyeshadow palette. So the first color we're looking for is a white. And inside of an eyeshadow palette, a white needs to be matte. We're not looking for anything shimmery because what this color is going to do is set up a barrier so that when we use darker colors later in the eyeshadow look, they're not going to hit that area because that's where we start to get that raccoon look and things get a little crazy. So I'm going to show you guys what these colors are inside of our Essentials palette as I'm covering them. So the white inside of the Essentials palette is very easy to find. It's going to be this matte white here. So whites can be kind of creamy, they can be more ivory, they can be more of a true white, but inside of the Essentials palette, that is going to be our white. The next color we're going to cover is H, and that is our highlight shade. In a highlight shade, you're looking for, again, anything that is white. It's going to be cream, it's going to be ivory, and oftentimes these are shimmers inside of eyeshadow palettes. They can be matte as well, so you can kind of switch back and forth between the two. Inside of the Essentials palette, this white shade here is also going to qualify as a highlight shade because nothing else in here is white and nothing else has shimmer. So inside of the Essentials palette, your highlight shade is going to be that white. Intensifier, this is the eye. So this is very easy to find actually in any eyeshadow palette because it's probably the color you're the most scared of. Intensifiers are going to be that color in the palette that is the closest to black. You're like, oh my gosh, Reese, every eyeshadow palette has to have a black. No, what I'm saying is based on how dark it is. So inside of the Essentials palette, when we're looking at all of the colors, the color that is the closest to black or the darkest is going to be that dark brown. So that qualifies it as an intensifier. Intensifiers can be matte or shimmery. You can switch back and forth between the two, but everything inside of the Essentials palette is going to be matte except for these two shimmers. So disregard that, but intensifier is going to be that dark brown color in the Essentials palette. Next, we're moving on to our transition shade, which is T. I don't know why, but I'm having a hard time with T words today. So our transition is T. This is going to be a very earthy tone. Think like pebbles on a beach. If you're somewhere in the Midwest, think of all the dry, dead grass. Unfortunately, when you go through droughts, that does happen. So that's going to be like your beige, that's going to be your tan color, that's going to be light browns, maybe a hint of caramel. So that is anything that qualifies as a transition color. It's a very earthy tone. It's a bit more muted, so it's not going to be that dark brown. It's probably more of a light brown. And these have to be matte. We are not using shimmery colors when it comes to a transition color. So inside of the Essentials palette, you actually have two options for your transition color. We have the light brown here and we have the caramel here, and both of those are going to qualify as a transition color. And last but not least, we have our A, and that is going to be our accent color. So an accent color is going to be lighter than the intensifier. Oftentimes this is shimmery, but it can also be matte. The accent color is that pop of color. It's going to be a little bit more fun. So inside of our Essentials palette, we have two that are true accent colors, and that is going to be the pink shimmer and the gold shimmer. Now, if you're like, Reese, I'm not huge on shimmer, I like to keep things a bit more matte, this is where you could also use the caramel and the light brown as your accent color because they are lighter than your intensifier. So those are also options to use for an accent color. However, when you're first learning how to do eyeshadow, I think focusing on the shimmers in here are a little bit easier to grasp instead of trying to, go all out and learn everything all at once. I want you to focus on an accent being a little bit more shimmery, being that pop of color lighter than the intensifier. But my friend, that is how to read any eyeshadow palette. So anytime I mention a white color, I mention a transition, I mention an accent, inside of a tutorial, you are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. So remember WHITA, and your homework is to go look at any of your eyeshadow palettes inside of your house, and I want you to identify the white, I want you to identify the highlight, the accent, the transition, the intensifier, everything that follows through with WHITA. I want you to find all of those colors, determine what they are inside of the palette, and just in practicing that and doing it every day, it's going to get so much easier and you're going to be able to create eyeshadow looks for yourself. But thank you for joining me today, and I will see you tomorrow for our basic eyeshadow application tutorial, which is what I have on today. So if you like what I have on today and you want to learn how to put all those terms into use, I will see you tomorrow.